Homer's Iliad describes a 10-year war fought over a beautiful woman 3,000 years ago. For centuries scholars called it pure myth. Then in 1871 an amateur archaeologist dug a hole in Turkey and found something that changed our understanding of ancient history, specifically the discovery of 9 layers of cities at Hizarlik, a site that would become the focal point of the search for Troy. As you consider the historicity of the Trojan War, you might wonder, what if the ancient Greeks were not just storytellers, but also historians, recording events that actually occurred around 1200 BC, a time of great upheaval in the eastern Mediterranean? In the 13th century BC, the Mycenaean civilization was at its peak, with cities like Mycenae and Tiryns flourishing in Greece, while the Hittite Empire, under the rule of Hattusili III, was expanding its territories in central Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. The Hittites had established trade relationships with the Mycenaeans, as evidenced by the Ulubran shipwreck, which sank around 1300 BC, carrying a cargo of copper, gold, and other precious commodities. As you delve into this period, you might ask, what role did the city of Wilusa, mentioned in the Hittite tablets, play in the conflict between the Hittites and the Mycenaeans, and how did its king, Alaksandu, navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries in the region? The Amarna letters, a collection of clay tablets from the 14th century BC, also provide insight into the diplomatic relations between the Egyptians and the Mycenaeans, highlighting the intricate network of alliances and rivalries that characterized the ancient Near East. In 1871, Heinrich Schliemann, a German businessman and amateur archaeologist, began excavating the site of Hizarlik, which he believed was the location of Troy, and by 1873, he had uncovered the remains of a city that matched the description of Troy in the Iliad, including a layer of ash and debris that suggested a violent destruction, dated to around 1180 BC. The next year, Schliemann discovered the treasure of Priam, a collection of gold and silver artifacts that he believed belonged to the king of Troy, including a golden funerary mask, which is now housed at the Pushkin Museum in Moscow. As you examine the archaeological evidence, you might wonder, what can the discovery of 9 distinct layers of occupation at Hizarlik, each with its own unique characteristics and artifacts, tell us about the history of the region and the possible existence of a city like Troy? In 1902, Wilhelm Dorpfeld, a German archaeologist, continued Schliemann's work at Hizarlik, and his excavations revealed a complex of buildings, including a possible palace, that dated back to the Late Bronze Age, around 1200 BC. The Hittite tablets, which were discovered in the early 20th century, provide further evidence of the existence of a city called Wilusa, which was allied with the Hittites, and a king named Alaksandu, who was a contemporary of the Mycenaean king, Ahiawa, around 1280 BC. The Tawagalawa letter, a Hittite tablet from the 13th century BC, also mentions a conflict between the Hittites and the Ahiawa, which some scholars believe may be related to the Trojan War. The discovery of the Hittite tablets and the excavation of Hizarlik have significantly changed our understanding of the Trojan War, providing evidence that a city like Troy may have existed, and that a conflict between the Mycenaeans and the Hittites may have occurred around 1200 BC. As you consider the implications of this discovery, you might ask, how does the archaeological evidence from Hizarlik and the Hittite tablets challenge or confirm the traditional narrative of the Trojan War, as described in the Iliad? The discovery of the Luwian seals, which date back to the 13th century BC, also provides evidence of the cultural and linguistic diversity of the region, and highlights the complex interactions between the different civilizations of the eastern Mediterranean. The fact that the Hittite tablets mention a city called Wilusa, which was allied with the Hittites, suggests that the Trojan War may have been a real conflict, fought over trade and territorial disputes, rather than just a mythological tale. As you reflect on the story of the Trojan War, you might wonder, what can the search for Troy teach us about the nature of history and the power of myth, and how can the archaeological evidence from Hizarlik and the Hittite tablets help us to separate fact from fiction, and to gain a deeper understanding of the ancient world? The discovery of the Trojan War's possible historicity serves as a reminder that history is complex, and that the line between myth and reality is often blurred, as evident in the works of ancient Greek historians like Herodotus, who wrote about the Trojan War as a historical event, around 440 BC.